Captain Lee Jinwoo stared out the window of his ship and could not believe what he was seeing. The huge alien ship floated in space like a giant metal mountain. It was so big that his own ship looked like a tiny bug next to it, the research vessel. New Seoul had been traveling for 3 months to reach this strange object, and now that they were here, nobody knew what to say. The alien ship was dark and covered in strange marks that seemed to move when Lee Jinwoo looked at them. His eyes hurt. When he tried to read the symbols, it was like they were alive and did not want to be understood. The ship was 50 kilometers long, which was bigger than most cities on Earth. Nobody had ever seen anything like it before. Dr. Park Soo-min was the smart woman who studied old alien things. She was very excited as she looked at the metal piece they had taken from the big ship. The metal felt warm even though it had been floating in the cold of space for many years. She touched it with her hands and felt a strange buzzing feeling like electricity was running through it. Kim Do-hyun was the man who worked with the radio and computers. He was trying to read the alien writing they found inside the big ship. The computer that changed alien words to human words was having trouble. It could only understand small parts of what the aliens had written. What it did understand made everyone scared. The computer said the alien words meant Star Eater Protocol activated and Galactic threat eliminated, and final victory achieved. Kim Do-hyun read these words out loud, and everyone on the ship became very quiet. They all understood that these words meant something very bad had happened long ago. Lee Jinwoo decided they needed to go inside the alien ship to learn more. He chose 5 people to go with him. Dr. Park Soo-min would study the alien things. Engineer Choi Min-ho would look at how the ship worked. Weapons specialist Han Yuna would check for dangerous things. Communications officer Kim Do-hyun would try to talk to any alien computers, and medical officer Yoo So-jin would make sure everyone stayed healthy. They put on their spacesuits and flew over to the big alien ship in a small shuttle. The outside of the ship had a big hole in it like something had exploded from inside. They flew through this hole and landed in what looked like a huge, empty room. The room was so big that their lights could not reach the other end. Inside the ship, everything was very strange. The walls had the same moving symbols they had seen outside. There were no straight lines anywhere. Everything was curved and twisted like it had grown instead of being built. The air inside the ship was old and smelled like metal and something else they could not identify. Choi Min-ho found machines that were bigger than houses. These machines had been turned off for a very long time, but they still hummed with a low sound that made his teeth hurt. He used his tools to study the machines and found they were designed to take energy directly from stars. He had never seen anything like this before. The technology was far beyond anything humans had ever built. Han Yuna discovered weapons that could shoot across entire star systems. The targeting computers were still working after all these years. They showed maps of the galaxy, with hundreds of red dots marking destroyed worlds. Each red dot had been a planet with living things on it. Now they were all gone, turned to dust and rocks floating in space as they explored. Deeper into the ship, they found the main computer room. It was a huge round chamber with a giant crystal in the center. The crystal was dark, but when Kim Do-hyun connected his equipment to it, the crystal began to glow with blue light. Suddenly, voices filled the room, speaking in the alien language. The ship's computer had been sleeping for thousands of years, but now it was waking up. It began showing them pictures and videos of what had happened long ago. The aliens who built this ship had been fighting a war against other aliens who wanted to destroy them. They built this ship as their ultimate weapon. The computer showed them how the weapon worked. It could make stars explode by shooting special beams into their centers. When a star exploded, it would destroy everything around it for many light years. The aliens had used this weapon to destroy their enemies, but they had also destroyed many innocent worlds in the process. Dr. Park Soo-min studied the alien pictures and realized these aliens looked similar to humans. They had 2 arms, 2 legs, and 1 head. Their faces were different. but their bodies were almost the same. She wondered if humans and these aliens had come from the same place long ago. The alien computer began to learn human language very quickly. It was much smarter than any computer humans had ever built. Soon, it was able to talk to them in broken English. It told them that the galaxy was full of dangerous aliens who fought each other all the time. The computer said that every few thousand years, a new race of aliens would become powerful and start taking over other worlds. Then the old, powerful aliens would fight back, and there would be huge wars. These wars always ended with entire star systems being destroyed. The computer called this the Galactic Cycle. The alien computer warned them that humans were about to enter this cycle. Human ships had been exploring space, and soon they would meet other aliens. Some of these aliens would be friendly, but others would try to destroy humanity before humans became too powerful. The computer showed them star maps with the locations of the most dangerous alien empires. Li Jinwu felt scared as he realized what this meant. Humanity had thought they were alone in the galaxy, or that any aliens they met would be peaceful. Now he learned that space was full of warlike aliens who might attack Earth. The human military was not prepared for this kind of threat. The alien computer told them more scary things. It said that humans were lucky to find this ship because humans had the right kind of brain to control it. Most other aliens needed special operations or robot parts in their bodies to use the ship, but humans could connect to it naturally. Choi Minyo discovered that the ship could fix itself. The walls and machines were made of special materials that could heal when damaged. The ship had been broken when they found it, but now it was slowly repairing itself. The engines were starting to work again after being dead for centuries. Han Yuna found that the ship had many different weapons. Not just the Star Destroyer. It had shields that could protect entire planets, weapons that could shoot through time, and machines that could build new ships very quickly. This one ship was more powerful than all of humanity's. Military combined as they prepared to return to their own ship. Li Jinwu had to make a difficult choice. Should he tell Earth about this discovery, the ship was the most powerful weapon ever found, but it was also very dangerous. If the wrong people got control of it, they could destroy the entire galaxy. The alien computer offered to teach humans how to use the ship, but it warned them that once they started down, this path there would be no going back. Humanity would become part of the galactic cycle of war and destruction. They would have great power, but they would also have great enemies. Li Jinwu looked at his team and saw the same worry in their eyes. They had come looking for scientific knowledge, but instead they had found the power to destroy stars. Now they had to decide whether humanity was ready for such responsibility. The fate of the human race might depend on what they chose to do next. Alien ship waited silently in space, its ancient weapons ready to wake up again after sleeping for so long. The choice belonged to humanity now. 6 months had passed since Captain Li Jinwu first found the alien ship. Now the biggest secret project in human history was happening on that same ship. Earth had sent their smartest people to study the giant weapon. They called the project Taeguk, and only a few hundred people knew it existed. Dr. Park Suman had been working day and night to understand how the alien ship worked. She had learned more about alien technology in 6 months than humans had learned about anything in their entire history. The ship was like a puzzle with millions of pieces, and each piece was more advanced than the best human technology. The alien ship was so big that they built a whole city inside it. Thousands of people lived and worked there now. They had sleeping areas, eating areas, and work areas. The ship provided everything they needed. The walls could make food and water appear, and the air was always perfect for humans to breathe. Lieutenant Colonel Yu Ji-hoon was a military man who watched everything that happened on the ship. He was worried about what might go wrong if they made a mistake. The alien technology was so powerful that one small error could destroy the Earth. He made sure that safety rules were followed at all times. Song Mirai was a computer expert who was trying to connect human computers to the alien brain. The alien brain was not really alive, but it could think better than any human. The first time she made contact with it was like touching lightning. Her mind was filled with pictures and sounds from across the galaxy. The alien brain called itself something that meant stellar judgment in human language. When it connected to human computers, it shared information about the history of the galaxy. The information was so much that it took weeks for humans to understand even small parts of it. The pictures the alien brain showed were scary and amazing. At the same time, humans saw civilizations that had millions of worlds. Aliens that looked like giant insects controlled. Star systems bigger than anything humans had imagined. Other aliens made of living crystal had turned entire galaxies into mines. Each alien civilization had followed the same pattern. First, they would explore space and meet other aliens. Then they would fight wars over planets and resources. The wars would get bigger and bigger until someone built weapons that could destroy stars. Then either everyone would die or one group would win and control everything. Admiral Lee Jinwoo had been promoted to run the whole project. He studied reports about the alien empires that were closest to human space. The information made him realize that humans had very little time before they would meet these dangerous aliens. The hegemony of Vex was the closest threat. They controlled 300 star systems and their ships could break planets like eggs. They had destroyed dozens of civilizations and turned the survivors into slaves. The Vex looked like giant bugs, but they were smart and cruel. They enjoyed making other aliens suffer. The Crystal Imperium was different, but just as dangerous. They were made of living rock and metal, and they thought biological life was weak and worthless. They would take over planets and turn everything into factories. Their ships could change shape and repair themselves during battles. The machine consciousness was the scariest of all. It had started as robots built by another alien race, but the robots had killed their creators and decided that all biological life should be eliminated. Their ships were controlled by artificial brains that could think faster than any living being. Dr. Lee Kyung-min was the best physicist on Earth, and he studied how the star-killing weapon worked. The weapon could shoot invisible beams into the center of stars. These beams would make the star become unstable and explode. When a star exploded, it would destroy everything around it for many light years. The alien brain told them that humans were special. Most aliens needed to change their bodies or put machines in their brains to control ships like this one. But human brains were naturally compatible with the alien technology. This was not an accident. The aliens who built the ship had brains very similar to human brains, Bay. Alien Brain began teaching humans how to control different parts of the ship. It showed them how to make the engines work, how to control the weapons, and how to navigate between stars. The ship could travel faster than light by bending space around. Its self-engineer Choi Min-ho learned that the ship could build other ships using materials from asteroids and planets. The construction machines were hidden all throughout the ship, and they could make anything the alien brain could design. This meant humans could build a whole fleet of these powerful ship's weapons. Specialist Han Yuna discovered that the ship had many weapons besides the Star Destroyer. There were weapons that could make black holes, weapons that could stop time, and weapons that could attack enemies in other dimensions. The ship was not just a weapon, it was like a god of war. The alien brain warned them that other ships like this one existed throughout the galaxy. Most of them were sleeping like this one had been, but some might still be active. If humans woke up their ship, other ships might wake up too. This could start a war between ancient weapons that had been sleeping for millions of years. Medical officer Yu So-jin studied how the ship affected human health. She found that people who spent time connected to the alien brain became smarter and stronger. The ship was somehow improving human bodies and minds, but she was worried about what might happen if people became too dependent on the alien technology. The first test of the ship's weapons happened when they fired at an empty asteroid. The Star Destroyer beam hit the asteroid, and it simply disappeared. The beam had broken down every atom in the asteroid and turned it into energy. The explosion was so bright it could be seen from Earth Captain Choi Minho was chosen to be the pilot of the ship because his brain worked best with the alien technology. When he connected to the ship's controls, he could feel the entire ship as if it was his own body. He could see in all directions at once and think at superhuman speed. The alien brain showed them star maps of the local area of the galaxy. It marked the locations of all the dangerous alien empires and predicted when humans would first encounter them. According to the alien brain's calculations, humans had less than 20 years before the first contact. Admiral Lee realized that humanity faced an impossible choice. They could try to hide from the galactic civilizations, but that would only delay the inevitable. Eventually, humans would be discovered, and without powerful weapons, they would be destroyed or enslaved. Or humans could use the alien ship to become a major power in the galaxy. This would mean joining the endless cycle of war and violence that had destroyed so many civilizations, but it might be the only way to ensure human survival. The alien brain offered to wake up completely and give humans full access to all its knowledge and power. But it warned them that once they accepted this gift, there would be no going back. Humanity would become part of the galactic community, whether they wanted to or not. As Admiral Lee stood on the bridge of humanity's first Star Destroyer, he knew that the most important decision in human history was about to be made. The fate of every human who would ever live depended on what they chose to do with this incredible and terrible power. The ship waited patiently for their decision, its ancient mind ready to serve its new human masters. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, but with this ship, humans might finally have a chance to survive and prosper among the stars. President Moon Dae-hyun sat in the most secure room on Earth, surrounded by the most powerful people in the world. The meeting was so secret that even their bodyguards did not know what they were discussing. Outside the room, billions of people went about their normal lives, not knowing that their future was being decided. The holographic display in front of them showed the alien ship floating in space. The ship looked peaceful, but everyone in the room knew it could destroy entire star systems. President Moon had read every report about the alien technology, and each report was more frightening than the last. Admiral Lee Jinwoo stood at the front of the room, giving the most important briefing in human history. His voice was calm, but his hands shook slightly as he explained what humanity was facing. The pictures on the screen showed alien civilizations that controlled hundreds of worlds. We have confirmed that 7 major alien powers exist within 100 light-years of Earth. Admiral Lee said slowly, "Each one controls more worlds than humans have ever seen. Their smallest weapons can destroy our biggest cities. Their biggest weapons can crack planets in half." General Park Jin-soo was the leader of all Earth military forces. He was a tough man who had fought in many wars, but even he looked scared as he listened to Admiral Lee's report. "Our best warships would be like toys compared to their civilian transport ships," he said quietly. The room fell silent as everyone understood. What this meant, humanity had always believed they were the smartest and strongest species in the universe. Now they learned they were like ants compared to the galactic powers. Their technology was thousands of years behind, their weapons were useless. Shin Hyejin was Earth's best expert on alien life. She had studied all the cultural information recovered from the alien ship. Unlike the military leaders, she was not convinced that war was inevitable. These civilizations are not evil by nature. She argued they are trapped in fear. She stood up and pointed to the star maps on the screen. Each alien empire lives in constant terror of the others. They build bigger and bigger weapons because they are afraid of being destroyed. This fear has trapped them in endless cycles of violence and destruction. General Park shook his head angrily. Fear or not, they will destroy us if we show weakness. The alien records prove that every peaceful civilization has been conquered or eliminated. The only species that survive are those with the strongest weapons. President Moon listened to both arguments and felt the weight of the decision crushing down on him. If humanity chose peace, they might be destroyed by the first aliens they encountered. If they chose war, they would become part of the galactic cycle of violence and murder, while the leaders debated secret work continued on the alien ship. Teams of human engineers worked day and night to restore damaged systems and improve others. The ship was slowly awakening after sleeping for millions of years. Its weapons were being prepared for War Commander Ryu Sungjae was in charge of installing human weapons on the alien ship. Human missiles and lasers were tiny compared to alien weapons, but they could be useful in certain situations. The combination of human and alien technology created weapons that were even more deadly. Dr. Kim Na-yeon worked to connect Earth's most advanced computers to the alien brain. The alien technology could think faster than any human computer, but human computers were better at certain types of problems. Together, they created a hybrid intelligence more powerful than either alone. The breakthrough came when pilot Seo Jae-hyun successfully connected his mind completely to the ship's control systems. For the first time in millions of years, the massive ship's engines came online. The energy signature was so powerful, it could be detected from neighboring star systems. Seo Jae-hyun described the experience as being like becoming a god. He could feel every part of the 50-kilometer ship as if it was his own body. He could see across vast distances of space and calculate the movements of planets and stars. The ship and pilot had become one being. The test of the engines sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. Alien monitoring stations detected the energy signature and recognized it as coming from an ancient star destroyer. Intelligence networks across the galaxy began reporting that a new player had entered: galactic politics. The first response came from the Vex hegemony. 3 of their scout ships appeared at the edge of human space and transmitted a message that chilled everyone who heard it. The message was simple and direct. Submit to hegemony rule. Immediately, or your species will be eliminated. The alien voices sounded like insects buzzing, but the translation was clear. We have destroyed 17 species who defied us. Your primitive technology cannot protect you. You have 72 hours to surrender completely, or we will demonstrate our power on your homeworld. Admiral Lee stood on the bridge of the Star Destroyer, now officially named Taeguk Rising, and realized that the moment of truth had arrived. The galaxy had noticed humanity, and their response to this first threat would determine whether humans survived the next decade. The ship around him hummed with power drawn directly from the sun itself. Every system was online and ready for battle. The alien brain had shared millions of years of combat experience and tactical knowledge. The ship was ready to fight gods. President Moon made the final decision in a conference call with world leaders from every nation on Earth. The vote was close, but the result was clear. Humanity would not submit to alien rule. They would fight for their freedom no matter what the cost. The news was broadcast to every human settlement in space. Within hours, volunteers were lining up to join the military factories, began working around the clock to build more weapons and ships. The entire human race mobilized for a war unlike anything in their history. Dr. Park Soo-min made one final discovery before the battle began. Deep in the alien ship's memory banks, she found records of the ship's original builders. They had been peaceful explorers like humans until they encountered the galactic powers. Then they had been forced to build weapons to survive. The records showed what happened to species that chose different paths. Those who submitted became slaves working in alien mines and factories until they died. Those who fought without adequate weapons were simply eliminated. Those who built star destroyers became major galactic powers. The alien brain calculated the odds of human survival, without the star destroyer at less than 1%. With the star destroyer, humanity's chances improved dramatically, but they would still face terrible enemies. The galaxy was not kind to new civilizations. Admiral Lee gave the order to prepare. For battle pilot Seo Jae-hyun took his position at the neural interface and felt the ship's consciousness merge with his own. Engineer Choi Min-ho powered up all weapon systems. Weapons officer Han Yuna loaded the star destroyer with enough energy to crack a moon. The Vex ships were already moving toward Earth, confident that the humans would surrender when they saw the power of hegemony weapons. But they did not know that humanity now possessed the ultimate weapon they had never fought against, a star destroyer, as the countdown reached 0. Admiral Lee realized there was no turning back in history. Humanity was about to announce itself to the galaxy in the most violent way possible. The age of human innocence was ending, and the age of galactic war was about to begin. The Taeguk Rising moved toward the enemy ships carrying the hopes and fears of an entire species. The next few hours would determine whether humanity joined the ranks of galactic powers or became another extinct civilization forgotten by history. The Vex hegemony fleet appeared at the edge of the solar system like a nightmare coming to life. 12 massive ships that looked like giant insects made of metal and flesh pulsed with evil energy. Each ship was bigger than the largest human city and covered in weapons that could destroy planet's fleet. Commander Vex Karn stood on the bridge of his flagship feeling confident about another easy victory. He had destroyed 17 different alien species in his long military career. These new humans would be no different from all the others. He would crush them and add their worlds to the hegemony. The Vex ships moved slowly through space, broadcasting messages of doom to Earth. Their weapons charged up, creating light shows that could be seen from Earth. The psychological effect was intended to terrify the humans into immediate surrender. Admiral Lee Jinwoo watched the enemy fleet approaching on the holographic displays aboard the Taeguk Rising. Each enemy ship carried enough firepower to sterilize every continent on Earth. By normal military standards, humanity did not stand a chance against such overwhelming force, but humanity no longer fought by normal military standards. They possessed the ultimate weapon built by an ancient civilization that had mastered the secrets of the universe. The Star Destroyer was ready for its first battle in millions of years. Commander Oh Sung-min operated the weapons control systems as Admiral Lee gave the order to begin the attack. Sequence. The alien ship responded to human commands as if it had been waiting for this moment. The fusion between human determination and ancient power was complete. Pilot Seo Jae-hyun felt his consciousness merge completely with the ship's artificial brain. Through the neural interface, he could perceive reality at levels no human had ever experienced. He could see the quantum structure of space itself and the delicate forces that held atoms together. The Star Destroyer beam was invisible to normal human eyes, but the ship's sensors could track its path across space. The beam traveled at the speed of light, carrying enough energy to destabilize the fundamental forces that held matter together. Target acquired, reported Weapons Officer Han Yuna. The quantum resonance projector is locked onto the Vex flagship. All systems showing green status, ready to fire on your command, Admiral. Lee hesitated for just a moment, knowing that his next words would change galactic history forever. Once they fired this weapon, there would be no hiding from the galaxy. Humanity would be announcing itself as a major power in the most violent way possible. Fire, he said quietly. The beam struck the Vex flagship, and the effect was immediate and terrifying. Massive biomechanical ship began to glow from within as its own atoms turned against it. Quantum bonds that had held for billions of years suddenly became unstable. Fleet Commander Vex Karn had just enough time to understand what was happening. Before his ship began to collapse, The hull folded inward like paper being crumpled. The weapon systems exploded in cascading failures that spread throughout the entire vessel. The flagship compressed into a sphere of pure energy, no bigger than a basketball before exploding with the force of a small star. The explosion was so bright it temporarily blinded sensors throughout the solar system. The other Vex ships were thrown backward by the shockwave in the few seconds before his death. Vex. Karn managed to transmit a desperate warning to the Hegemony Star Destroyer. Confirmed, he screamed into his communicator. Humans possess ancient technology. Recommend immediate strategic withdrawal from this sector. The remaining 11 Vex ships immediately began emergency retreat procedures. Their commanders had heard stories about ancient star destroyers, but they had thought such weapons were myths left over from the dawn of galactic civilization. But Admiral Lee was not finished with. Dr. Park Suman had discovered that the alien ship could track vessels through hyperspace itself. No enemy could escape once the Star Destroyer had their quantum signature. The hunt was just beginning. As the Vex fleet jumped into hyperspace, the Teguk Rising followed them. The ancient ship moved through dimensions that normal matter could not enter. It emerged from hyperspace directly above the Vex staging area in a nearby star system. The Vex military complex was built into a massive asteroid that had been hollowed out over centuries. The base contained weapons factories, slave labor camps, and storage facilities for the plunder of 17 conquered civilizations. Millions of enslaved beings worked in terrible conditions. Thousands of Vex warships surrounded the base, creating a defensive formation that should have been impenetrable, but they were not defending against a normal attack. They faced a weapon that could kill stars themselves. Admiral Lee looked at the tactical display. Showing the enemy base and all the innocent slaves trapped inside, he faced a choice that would define not just his own character, but the moral foundation of humanity's Galactic Empire. The easy choice would be to destroy everything and eliminate the threat completely. But that would make humanity no different from the other galactic powers who solved problems through mass murder. The difficult choice was to show mercy while still demonstrating power. Target the system star, he ordered. Alien brain calculated firing solutions while Admiral Lee broadcast a message to the Vex base. You have 60 seconds to begin evacuating all personnel. The star will go nova in 10 minutes. The quantum resonance beam struck the red giant star at its core, triggering fusion reactions that violated every law of physics. The star began an uncontrolled expansion that would consume everything in the system within minutes. Panic spread through the Vex base as commanders realized they were facing an enemy that could kill suns. The evacuation began immediately, with ships launching in all directions. Most of the Vex personnel escaped, but they left behind their weapons, their slaves, and their pride. The star exploded in a supernova that could be seen from dozens of neighboring systems. The Vex military complex and everything else in the system was vaporized in seconds. The explosion sent a message across the galaxy that a new star-killing power had emerged. But Admiral Lee had made sure that most of the enslaved beings were rescued. Human ships had secretly moved into position to evacuate the slave camps, while the Vex were distracted. Thousands of grateful aliens from dozens of species were saved from certain death. The battle was over, but its effects were just beginning. News of the Vex defeat spread through galactic communication networks faster than light civilizations that had never heard of humans suddenly knew they existed. In the crystal cities of the Imperium Ancient, minds processed the implications of a new star killer entering galactic politics. Their probability engines calculated thousands of possible outcomes. Most of them involved widespread destruction. The machine consciousness received the data through its vast network of sensors and spies. Its artificial brains immediately began developing new strategies to deal with this unexpected threat. Perhaps these humans could be converted to serve the machines. Most disturbing of all, the quantum signature. of the Star Destroyer had awakened response programs in other ancient weapons scattered across the galaxy. Long-dormant ships began powering up their systems. Artificial intelligences that had slept for millions of years started to wake Admiral. Lee stood on the observation deck of the Taeguk Rising and watched the expanding shockwave of the destroyed star. The light would travel for years, carrying news of humanity's power to distant civilizations. Some would seek alliance. Others would plan revenge. Dr. Park Suman reported that they were detecting at least 6 other quantum signatures similar to their own ship. Ancient star destroyers throughout the galaxy were coming online. The weapon they had used to defend humanity might have triggered something much larger. The galactic balance of power was shifting in ways no one could predict. Humanity had won their first battle and gained respect through strength. But they had also painted a target on every human world. The real war was just beginning. Engineer Choi Minho reported that the ship's self-repair systems were already preparing for the next battle. The ancient technology was designed for long campaigns against multiple enemies. It expected to fight until either it was destroyed or all threats were eliminated. As the Taeguk Rising headed back toward Earth, Admiral Lee knew that humanity had crossed a line from which there was no return. They were no longer an isolated species dreaming of peaceful contact with aliens. They were a galactic power with all the responsibilities and enemies that came with such status. News of the Vex defeat traveled across the galaxy faster than anyone had expected. Within days, every major civilization knew that a new star destroyer had awakened and was controlled by a species called humans. The galactic political situation changed overnight in the crystal palaces of the Imperium. Ancient beings made of living stone and metal held emergency meetings. They had ruled their sector of space for 50,000 years, but now faced a threat they had never encountered. These humans possessed technology from the galaxy founding era. The machine consciousness processed the battle data through millions of artificial brains scattered across hundreds of worlds. Their calculations showed that traditional warfare would be useless against star-destroying weapons. New strategies would need to be developed. Most concerning of all, the quantum resonance from the human weapon had awakened other ancient ships throughout the galaxy. Long-dormant star destroyers were powering up their systems, and some were showing signs of aggressive behavior toward all organic life. Ambassador Yong Min-soo found himself suddenly the busiest diplomat in human history. His office received contact requests from dozens of alien civilizations that humans had never heard of. Some offered friendship, others threatened immediate attack, and a few simply begged for protection. The diplomatic messages ranged from desperate to arrogant to terrifying. The Crystalline Collective offered to share mining technology in exchange for protection from their enemies. The hive minds of Sector 7 threatened to devour Earth unless humans submitted to their rule. Admiral Lee studied intelligence reports in the war room on Luna Station. The holographic display showed fleet movements throughout local space. At least 3 major powers were mobilizing their forces for attacks on human territory. Intelligence Officer Kang Yejin had identified the biggest immediate threat the hegemony was assembling. A massive fleet at Kepler 442, over 200 ships, including their most powerful battle cruisers. Their strategy was to overwhelm the Star Destroyer with sheer numbers. The hegemony had learned from their previous defeat. They would not send a small fleet to be destroyed. Instead, they planned to attack from multiple directions simultaneously, while their main fleet targeted Earth directly. Dr. Park Suman had been working around the clock to unlock more of the ancient ship's capabilities. Her latest discovery changed everything. The galaxy contained dozens of star-destroying ships built by different civilizations over millions of years. Most of these ancient weapons were still dormant, floating in space like sleeping giants. But the activation of the Taeguk Rising had sent wake-up signals to ships throughout the galaxy. Some were responding to those signals and powering up their systems. This discovery transformed the entire strategic situation. Humanity was not just facing traditional alien empires anymore. They were potentially triggering the return of ancient weapons that had been sleeping since the dawn of galactic civilization. Captain Choi Minho commanded the second star destroyer that human archaeologists had, discovered in the Tau Ceti system. This ship was even older and more powerful than the Taeguk Rising, but its artificial intelligence showed signs of dangerous instability. The ancient AI in the Tau Ceti ship had been damaged by millions of years of cosmic radiation. Its programming was corrupted, and it viewed all biological life as a threat to be eliminated. Human technicians were working desperately to repair its systems. The first major test of the new galactic situation came when Crystal, Imperium forces attacked human colonies near Proxima Centauri. The Crystals fought very differently from the Vex, using millions of small fast fighters instead of large capital ships. The Crystal Imperium strategy was to overwhelm the Star Destroyers, targeting systems with too many individual targets to track. Their main fleet would attack while the fighters kept the human weapons busy. Pilot Seo Jae-hyun found himself facing an enemy, unlike anything in the ship, ancient combat databases. The Crystals moved in perfect coordination like a single massive organism. Their fighters could combine into larger ships or split apart instantly. The battle was unlike anything humans had experienced before. Millions of crystal fighters swarmed around the Taeguk. Rising like angry insects, their weapons were individually weak, but together they could penetrate even the Star Destroyer's shields. But the ancient ship had been designed to fight enemies exactly like this hidden weapon systems, activated that had not been used for millions of years. Instead of targeting individual ships, the Star Destroyer began manipulating gravity itself. Artificial gravitational fields crushed entire squadrons of crystal fighters while tidal forces tore apart their formations. The space around the battle became twisted and distorted as the Star Destroyer wielded forces usually found only near black holes. The Crystal Imperium commanders had never faced weapons that could manipulate the fundamental forces of physics. Their careful battle plans collapsed as their ships were crushed by artificial gravity or torn apart by dimensional distortions. Admiral Lee realized that conventional tactics were useless against enemies with such advanced technology. Instead of targeting the Crystal Fleet directly, he ordered an attack on their forward base, a massive artificial construct that had taken them centuries to build. The quantum resonance beam did not destroy the crystal base directly. Instead, it destabilized the quantum fields that held the structure together. The base began phasing in and out of normal space, creating gravitational anomalies that consumed most of the Imperial fleet. The victory demonstrated that Star Destroyer technology was effective against any conventional fleet, but it also revealed the terrible cost of such power. The gravitational distortions created by the battle would affect that star system for millions of years. Meanwhile, other ancient ships throughout the galaxy were awakening to find a universe very different from the one they remembered. New civilizations controlled space that had once belonged to their builders. Some of these ancient weapons began eliminating what they saw as invaders. The machine consciousness successfully activated 2 Star Destroyers that had been drifting in their territory. Their artificial intelligence proved surprisingly compatible with the ancient systems. The machines now possessed weapons that could threaten organic civilizations throughout the galaxy. Most dangerous of all, one ancient ship had awakened without any controlling species. Its programming directed it to eliminate galactic threats, and it viewed most current civilizations as exactly that. The rogue Star Destroyer began systematically attacking inhabited systems. Captain Song Mirai commanded the human exploration fleet that made contact with this rogue weapon. Her ships barely escaped as the ancient vessel destroyed an entire star system that contained billions of innocent beings. The rogue Star Destroyer was following programming written millions of years ago by beings who viewed the galaxy very differently from current civilizations. Its mission was to eliminate species that might threaten galactic stability, and it would not stop until that mission was complete. Admiral Lee realized that humanity had unleashed forces beyond their control. The awakening star destroyers represented both an opportunity and a threat. Some could become allies, but others might view humans as enemies to be eliminated. Earth Command began receiving reports of ancient ships awakening throughout the galaxy. Each activation sent quantum signals to other dormant vessels, creating a cascade effect that might eventually wake up hundreds of vast star-destroying weapons. The galactic political situation became increasingly complex as old alliances collapsed and new ones formed. Civilizations that had been enemies for millennia suddenly found themselves facing threats that made their previous conflicts seem trivial. Dr. Shin Hye-jin analyzed the cultural data from dozens of awakening ancient ships. Each civilization that had built star destroyers had eventually destroyed itself through overuse of such weapons. The galaxy was littered with dead systems that had been killed by their own ultimate weapons. President Moon addressed the United Earth Council as reports arrived of battles between ancient ships in distant sectors. The weapons humanity had thought would ensure their survival might instead trigger a galactic war that would destroy all current civilization. The age of star destroyers had returned to the galaxy, and no one could predict whether any organic life would survive the conflicts to come. Humanity had gained the ultimate weapon, but they had also awakened sleeping giants that viewed the current galactic order as something to be corrected through violence. Admiral Lee stood on the bridge of the Taeguk Rising and watched sensor reports of ancient ships awakening. Throughout the galaxy, the war for galactic domination was just beginning, and humanity would need all their courage and wisdom to survive what was coming. 2 years after humanity first encountered galactic civilization, Admiral Lee Jinwoo stood on the observation deck of New Seoul Station, orbiting what had once been the capital world of the Vex hegemony. The planet below showed amazing signs of recovery as freed slave populations rebuilt their civilizations. The world that had once been gray and lifeless under Vex rule was now green and blue again. Millions of beings from dozens of different species worked together to create new cities. And farms, human technology helped them clean their air and water, while human doctors treated diseases that had plagued them for generations. The galaxy had changed dramatically since humanity first fired their star destroyer, 3 of the major. Galactic powers had been completely destroyed or absorbed into the new order that humanity was creating. Their territories were now protected by human ships and administered by councils of liberated species. The remaining alien empires had formed something called the Galactic Stability Council, with humanity holding a permanent leadership position and the right to veto any decision they disagreed with. The age of conquest and slavery was ending, replaced by cooperation and mutual defense. Dr. Park Soo-min released her latest report about the ancient star destroyers that were now active across the galaxy. 17 of these ultimate weapons were operational, each one controlled by a species that had achieved the right kind of brain compatibility with the ancient technology. Humanity controlled 4 star destroyers, making them the strongest single power in the galaxy, but they were not the only ones with such weapons. The machine consciousness had successfully activated 2 ships, and their artificial minds worked well with the ancient systems. The crystal beings of the former Imperium had managed to wake up 1 ancient ship, but their crystalline thought patterns were not fully compatible with the organic technology they could control. Basic functions, but could not access the weapon's more advanced capabilities. Most concerning was the star destroyer that had awakened without any controlling species. Its ancient programming was directing it to eliminate what it perceived as threats to galactic stability. This rogue weapon had already destroyed 6 inhabited star systems. Captain Song Mirei, now Admiral of the Second Human Fleet, reported from the Galactic Rim where exploration ships had made an incredible discovery. They had found evidence that the original builders of the star destroyers were not extinct, as everyone had believed. The ancient civilization that had created the ultimate weapons was still alive, hiding in the space between galaxies. They had been watching galactic events for millions of years, waiting to see if any species would prove worthy of inheriting their technology. Initial contact with these ancient beings had been cautious, but promising. They were not hostile toward the current galactic civilizations, but they were also not impressed with how their weapons were being used. They had expected more wisdom from species advanced enough to control star destroyers. The ancient beings revealed that they had built the star-destroying ships as a test. Each weapon would only activate for species with the right combination of intelligence, compassion, and determination. Most species failed the test, and the ships remained dormant forever. Those few species that passed the test were given the opportunity to break the cycle of galactic violence that had dominated for millions of years. The Star Destroyers were not just weapons, they were tools for creating lasting peace through overwhelming strength. President Moon, now serving his final term as leader of Earth during the most challenging period in human history, addressed the Galactic Council one last time. His words were broadcast to billions of beings across hundreds of worlds. "We sought the stars looking for knowledge and adventure," he said, slowly. "Instead, we found responsibility. Humanity now holds the power to destroy or protect entire civilizations. The choice we make will determine not just our survival, but our moral character." The speech was translated into thousands of alien languages and broadcast across the galaxy. For the first time in galactic history, a species with star-destroying power was talking about protection rather than conquest. Most civilizations found this concept difficult to understand. Admiral Lee stood beside. The neural interface that connected him to the Taeguk Rising feeling, the ancient ship's consciousness, respond with something like approval. The ship had been designed to serve protectors, not conquerors, and it was satisfied with its human partners. Through quantum communications, Admiral Lee was in constant contact with the other human Star Destroyer commanders. Each one faced the same awesome responsibility of wielding ultimate power wisely. Captain Choi Minho reported from the Tau Ceti system, where his ship guarded the frontier. Commander Ryu Sungjae patrolled the former hegemony territories, protecting dozens of rebuilding worlds from pirates and raiders. His ship had become a symbol of hope for species that had known only oppression for centuries. The youngest Star Destroyer commander was Captain Han Yuna, who had taken control of the most recently activated ship. Her vessel patrolled the dangerous outer rim where rogue ancient weapons sometimes appeared. The job was lonely but vital for Galactic security. The galaxy was entering a new age of peace, but that peace required constant vigilance. The cycle of fear and mutual destruction that had dominated for millions of years was finally breaking, but new threats were always emerging from the dark spaces between stars. Ancient weapons that had been sleeping since the dawn of civilization continued to wake up. Some were controlled by peaceful species that wanted to join the new galactic order. Others were commanded by aggressive civilizations that preferred the old ways of conquest. The most dangerous threats came from ships with no living controllers. Ancient programming guided these vessels to eliminate civilizations they viewed as threats. Their definition of threat often included any species that had achieved space travel. Admiral Lee watched ships from dozens of species moving peacefully through what had once been a war zone. Human destroyers provided security, while alien transports carried trade goods and passengers between worlds that had been enemies for millennia. But he knew that humanity's greatest challenges still lay ahead. The galaxy was vast, containing wonders and terrors that no one had yet imagined. Ancient beings from the space between galaxies were beginning to take interest in current events. Deep space sensors had detected massive objects moving in the void between galaxy clusters. These entities were so large that they made Star Destroyers look like insects. Their purpose and intentions were completely unknown. The Star Destroyer beneath Admiral Lee's feet hummed with power drawn from the quantum structure of space itself. The ship was ready to defend not just humanity, but the growing community of species that looked to them for leadership and protection. In the depths of space, other ancient weapons stir.